shall be held and shall be presided over by the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, culminating in the former President's burial on Monday, 23rd June 2020.
Number 1, that the body of the late President Lungu shall be transported together with the family from Lanseria Airport in South Africa to Zambia on Wednesday, 18th June 2025, using a private charter made available to the family by well-wishers. Secondly, that following the arrival and receipt of the body by family members in Lusaka, full military honors will be conducted at the Kenneth Kaunda International Airport, after which the body shall be taken to the funeral house in Chifwema, where it will lie instead. Thirdly, that the body of the late former president will be taken to Mulungushi International Conference Center on Thursday 19th June, Friday 20th June, and Saturday 21st June to enable members of the public to pay their last respects from 09 hours to 16 hours, after which it shall be returned on all days to the funeral house in Chifwema to lie instead. That the state funeral that will host foreign dignitaries shall be held at Mulungushi Conference Center on Sunday 22nd June, and the body of former President Lungu shall be taken to the venue and returned to Chifwema after the event, where it will lie instead. That a valedictory session will be held at the Supreme Court grounds in honor of former President Lungu, a lawyer by profession, on Monday, 23rd June, to be followed by a church service on the same day in the showgrounds in Lusaka, one that would be conducted by His Grace Archbishop Alec Banda. That the body of the late former president shall always lie instead at the funeral house in Chifwema and only be taken away for the above stated functions during the day, after which it shall be returned to the funeral house every day to lie instead at the conclusion of these events. That the body of the late president shall always be accompanied by a relative, the aide-de-camp, and the former president's personal physician. That the period of national mourning shall be extended, and that the two parties shall always consult and agree on who speaks at all events. And further, to avoid the confusion that has been ongoing relating to the Patriotic Front Party, that Honorable Given Lubinda will speak on behalf of the Patriotic Front Party. It is important to emphasize that the family is proceeding based on the guarantees given by the government of the Republic of Zambia that they will not deviate from our agreement or betray the trust of the family and the wishes of the former president. The family hopes that this outcome will bring this matter to a close and avoid further trauma to the family and millions of affected ordinary Zambians. We wish to express our heartfelt gratitude to the Zambian people at home and away who gave the late former president their love, both in life and in death. Your outpouring of love has strengthened us and lightened our burden. We will
Mazina yangu leo ni Nebo Betha Lungu. Ni Nebo nkashia kwa Edgar Chagwa Lungu. Chagwa Lungu emwaicho wandi uko nka ine panuma. Nomba ndefu ayokulanda kuchalo cha Zambia uko ati mumfwe ifyondelanda munivele maningi vamele vunufunola vila. Nifuna kulavira kuti uyu muviri wa Chagwa wamene utudoselana pali zino ntawi taoneka monga seolomba tawika mumanja ya mwine Mulungu niya kuti azive viti kuti tichite pali zino ntawi tifuna tinkale pasi tikambilane monga banja tizive viti kuti tichite osati seo te banja tuodoselana na boma tifuna kuti tinkale pamozi tike maganizo pamozi lomba tikunga kumva kuti mailo statement ya chinja lomba seo te babanja titolepo chinji so pora vila vonse hivyo. That's why amake bizulu niye bunupasa mpamvu neo ne sister wao kuti atilabilire ku ziko la Zambia viti kuti vikonkepo vitufuna kuti tichite. Nineo nubapa mpamvu amakebi ozitolera lini mpamvu mubeka bene
Fellow countrymen and women, brothers, sisters, and everyone who's listening in or indeed watching us. This is a statement formed on behalf of the Lungu family relating to the burial and funeral of the late President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. As the public may be aware, we had engaged government on the arrangements relating to the burial of the late 6th Republican President of the Republic of Zambia, President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. Following a joint briefing between family and government, we came to an agreed position that the mortal remains of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu would be repatriated today, the 18th of June, 2025. It was agreed, among other things, that the body would at all times lay in state at the official residence of the deceased in Chifwema. It was further agreed that parties would jointly make decisions upon consultation. However, the family has noted with regret that there have been attempts to subvert the spirit of the agreement that the family and the government got into by engagement into the following on the part of the government. On the 16th of June 2025, a statement to the public was released by Road Development Agency stating that they would be carrying out repair works of the road from Crossroads 7 kilometers onwards. As the public may know, this is a road that leads to Chifwema, the official residence of the former president. It is also part of the program and agreement that at all times the body would be moving from Chifwema to Mulungushi Conference Center for purposes of body viewing, the state funeral, as well as the burial service on the 23rd. However, the notice from RDA put it across that the road would be under maintenance. When this was brought to our attention, we advised the Secretary to the Cabinet that we weren't comfortable with these works as they tended to go against the agreement that we had. When this was brought to their attention, the said works were suspended until further notice. However, on the 17th of June 2025, the Secretary to the Cabinet issued a statement restricting people from receiving or at least witnessing the arrival of the remains of the former president. This notice was issued without consultation with the family, and further, no opportunity whatsoever was given to the family to indicate whom they wished to invite, if at all the attendance was by invitation, nor were they given any chance to say anything as regards the said invitation. When the Secretary to the Cabinet was engaged, he only stated that there were security concerns, which concerns still have not been stated to the family. Following that statement, the next thing was that there was a program for the arrival of the body at Kenneth Kaunda International Airport. This program suggested that upon arrival at Kenneth Kaunda International Airport, the body would be taken to a
Anda munivele maningi. Anda munivele maningi. Anda munivele maningi vamene vunufuna olavira. Nifuna kulavira kuti uyu muviri wa Chagwa wamene utudosera uyika mumanja ya mwine Mulungu niya kuti azive viti kuti tichite. Pali zino nthawi tifuna tinkhale pansi tikambilane monga banja tizive viti kuti tichite. Osatisewo te banja tiwodoserana na boma. Tifuna kuti tinkhale pamozi tike maganizo pamozi. Lomba tikunga kumva kuti mailo statement ya chinja, mailo statement ya chinja. Lomba seo te wabanja titolepo chinji. So pora vila vonse hivyo. That's why amakebi Zulu niye vunupasa mpamvu neo ne sister wao kuti atilavirire ku ziko la Zambia viti kuti vikonkepo vitufuna kuti tichite. Nineo nuwa pa mpamvu amakebi. Ozitolera lini mpamvu mubeka bene.
Fellow countrymen and women, brothers, sisters, and everyone who's listening in or indeed watching us. This is a statement for and on behalf of the Lungu family relating to the burial and funeral of the late President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. As the public may be aware, we had engaged government on the arrangements relating to the burial of the late 6th Republican President of the Republic of Zambia, President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. Following a joint briefing between family and government, we came to an agreed position that the mortal remains of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu would be repatriated today, the 18th of June, 2025. It was agreed, among other things, that the body would at all times lay in state at the official residence of the deceased in Chifwema. It was further agreed that parties would jointly make decisions upon consultation. However, the family has noted with regret that there have been attempts to subvert the spirit of the agreement that the family and the government got into by engagement into the following on the part of the government. On the 16th of June 2025, a statement to the public was released by Road Development Agency stating that they would be carrying out repair works of the road from Crossroads 7 kilometers onwards. As the public may know, this is a road that leads to Chifwema, the official residence of the former president. It is also part of the program and agreement that at all times the body would be moving from Chifwema to Mulungushi Conference Center for purposes of body viewing, the state funeral, as well as the burial service on the 23rd. However, the notice from RDA put it across that the road would be under maintenance. When this was brought to our attention, we advised the Secretary to the Cabinet that we weren't comfortable with these works as they tended to go against the agreement that we had. When this was brought to their attention, the said works were suspended until further notice. However, on the 17th of June 2025, the Secretary to the Cabinet issued a statement restricting people from receiving or at least witnessing the arrival of the remains of the former president. This notice was issued without consultation with the family, and further, no opportunity whatsoever was given to the family to indicate whom they wished to invite, if at all the attendance was by invitation, nor were they given any chance to say anything as regards the said invitation. When the Secretary to the Cabinet was engaged, he only stated that there were security concerns, which concerns still have not been stated to the family. Following that statement, The next thing was that there was a program for the arrival of the body at Kenneth Kaunda International Airport. This program suggested that upon arrival at Kenneth Kaunda International Airport, the body would be taken to a designated place for a church service, and thereafter it would be received by President Hakainde Hichilema at the airport. This position was not an agreed position with the family, and the program was made without consultation with the family. When this matter was made known to the Secretary to the Cabinet, he stated that the same was released in error and was a draft, and as such should not have been released. Before long, yet another statement, which they termed a combined program, was released, which essentially contained the same, but further went to suggest that on Thursday, the 19th of June 2025, President Hakainde Hichilema would lead the body viewing at Mulungushi International Conference Center. This program as well was arrived at without consultation with the family. For this reason and many more, the family finds it very difficult to believe that the government will stick to their end of the agreement, and have resolved, sadly so, that the mortal remains of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu will not return home today. It is our hope that someday his remains will be repatriated back home and buried. I thank you.
Good, thank you very much, and thank you for joining us. I was playing some video to give you background before I bring State Counsel John Sangwa on the program. Today we are hosting renowned lawyer and renowned human rights and constitutional lawyer, Mr. John Sangwa, State Counsel, is going to give a perspective of what has been going on. It's been 14 days since the president passed on, and by now people would think that the matter should have been resolved, but there's been a standoff between the family and the state over the family's wishes and over the state's role in this entire funeral program. An initial 7 days mourning was declared on Sunday. When it expired, there was a renewal that the mourning period would be extended up to the day when we bury the remains of the late president. All systems were to go until today. We learned that the program that was released yesterday by Cabinet Office seemed to have abrogated some agreements between the family and the state, and it seems to have defeated the very reason they had sat down and agreed. And the family sadly made a difficult decision and suspended the evacuation of the remains of the late president. Let me bring in John Sangwa, State Counsel. Mr. Sangwa, good evening.
Good evening, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. How have you been?
I've been okay. We haven't spoken. The last time I think we spoke was about what? In December.
Yes,
we haven't
yes.
spoken ever since.
It's been almost 7 months.
7 months indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
State Counsel have been very quiet. People keep on saying, when are you bringing him to discuss the Constitution? But that's not the topic for the day. People miss you. They miss your voice on these cardinal issues.
Thank you.
Just what is your perspective regarding this war matter? You must have studied it. Just give us the perspective from the point of the law.
Yeah, this is a very sad development, which ordinarily should not happen. It's embarrassing, but we are where we are. But it's also a lesson. It is a sign of our inability to respond to the challenges that we face as a country. And it is also a reflection of our misplaced priorities. And what has contributed to this is clearly the absence of the law to govern such events.
Yeah.
You know, so it is a known fact that once one has served as president, at some point they will die. And what happens? How do we manage that process? And unfortunately, 60 years on, there is actually no legal framework to govern such events. And whatever happens is basically being done on a case-by-case basis. So I think it is a failure on the part of those given the responsibility to manage the affairs of this country to try and put in place the necessary legal arrangements to address such situations.
Counsel, you've handled these matters, some directly, some indirectly. I remember the family of Dr. Kenneth David Kaunda engaged you because Dr. Kaunda, his memoirs, public utterance says, always wish that you lie at Shambalakale and at least lie next to Betty. I think whoever would have died first, their remains should be put alongside the other. And when Betty Kaunda died, instructions were that she should be buried in Shambalakale. I was privileged to have been permanent secretary at the time for Northern Province. It was combined with Muchinga, and Chinsali was under me. I rushed to prepare the place where Mama Betty would lie, and for 2 days we worked, but at the last minute we were told that the remains would be put in Lusaka. When Dr. Kaunda died, Kaweche engaged you and said, as far as he knows, the father wanted to lie next to Betty, and there's no room at the Embassy Park for 2 burials. There's only one for presidents. I think that's one of the regulations. Just give us a background, and how did you take this matter? How did you go to court? What were the outcomes?
Yeah, but again, it's exactly that. You see, even combining the issues that we have at hand, one of the things that we need to understand is the fact that, you see, government is a creation of the law. Now, what it means is that the powers of what government can and cannot do is stipulated in the law. Okay?
Yes.
Now, when government decides to move, they should be able to point out to a specific provision of the law empowering them to do what they want to do. Okay? Now, in the absence of that, and this is what happened in the case of Dr. Kaunda, the argument that the family had was basically that, well, those were his wishes that you've just talked about. But again, well, the government of the day, the administration of the day felt that no, he needed to be buried at Embassy Park. So basically overruling the wishes of the family and that of Dr. Kaunda himself. But the true position of what should happen, the true position of the law is, in the absence of the law, we are governed by the wishes of the family. Okay? Because there is no law to back up, to support government action. Now, for example, the only law that we have in place right now is the law to do with the payment of benefits to former presidents. That's the only law that is there, directly dealing with the issues of former presidents. And under that law, the only thing that a former president is entitled to, as of right, the funeral expenses. But that is also presupposes that that particular president is not in active politics, okay? Because the law is that if one is in active politics, effectively those benefits are suspended. He cannot access those, whether dead or alive, he cannot draw those benefits. Now, these are the challenges that we have. In a situation that we have at hand, the most logical, from my perspective, it is a very, very simple matter. Government has no legal backing for whatever they're trying to do. And in this case, what should have happened is that the family should have taken the lead role, and government's role is simply to support the wishes of the family. And in this case, what government should have done is to approach the family to say, okay, fine, what are your plans? What is it that you'd like government to do? Okay? Then, if the family wanted it, then they would explain to the government, and government would now be able to, by the way, I mean the administration anyway.
Yes.
The administration would now be able to say, okay, fine, we will do that. And the family can say, you know what? No, thank you very much. We have everything under control and everything else. Then the administration will pull back and say, okay, thank you very much, but if you need our help, we are there. It's a very simple matter. But the problem is, I mean, it's so shocking and amazing that this thing has taken a life of its own, you know, which is very, very sad. Then, then there's now room for speculation as to what exactly is the motivation behind all these things, you know? So in other countries, for example, even if, let's say, you want to talk about these things, you see, take, for example, Tanzania. There is a clear piece of legislation, okay?
Yeah.
Which sets out what should happen when a former, first of all, there are categories of people that are entitled to state funeral. It's not just every Jim and Jack. Okay? Now, under that act, they call it the National Leaders Funerals Act. Okay?
National Leaders Funerals Act. Okay.
Yes. Okay? It is there in Tanzania. Now, there is an elaborate process as to who are the leaders that are entitled, what happens when a national leader dies, who is to make the announcement, okay? And then what happens if the leader dies outside the country? What is the procedure? What is the procedure, for example, if, let's say, a president or former president dies? Everything is laid out. And in addition to that, there is what they call funeral committees, okay? And those funeral committees, Ambassador, they even have a budget.
Wow.
Now, you have spent so much money during this particular period. Who is going to account for that money, by the way? And these are taxpayers' money. So now we have there is an elaborate procedure. For example, even in Tanzania, there is what they call a national cemetery. Now, in Zambia, you don't even have a national cemetery. Okay? So you bury them at the embassy park. There is no law gazetting providing for the existence of the embassy park. There should have been an act of parliament to that effect to designate that place as a burial place for leaders. Okay? Now, there is nothing like that. So all what we have is a state of lawlessness. Okay? Now, in addition to that, for example, in Tanzania, there is a procedure. If a president leaves a will where he has directed that he has to be buried somewhere else, okay? The government will respect that. But what they will do at the National Cemetery, they still put a tombstone or whatever, a plaque to commemorate, to designate it, to recognize that particular leader. And then that leader will be buried wherever he wants to be buried. Even when it comes to the actual service, how it will be conducted, the law clearly states that the funeral rites will be conducted according to the faith of the deceased person. If he was Catholic, then that Catholic procedure will be followed, whatever the denomination of the deceased president was. If he was an unbeliever, then that too will be respected. Now here, we are wallowing in darkness. Why? Because there's no law. And government has the administration has no basis on which to do whatever they want to do. Or at the end of the day, the owners of the body, there is this concept that people talk about state property. Where did they get that idea? There is no such a concept at law anyway, okay? In the absence of the law, at the end of the day, the people that have a final say in these matters is the family. These are the people that have direct loss. Yes, as a country, we have lost a former head of state, granted. But these are known as the bereaved family. Our job as citizens is to be able to make the burden easier for this family, not to complicate things on their, not to complicate things for them. And all what should have been done is to respect their wishes. Now, they have to dictate what government's role will be. And it's not for the government to dictate what its role should be. No, there isn't. There's absolutely no legal basis for that.
Now, people have been saying, look, how did we deal with Dr. Kaunda? For example, Dr. Kaunda and Levi Mwanawasa, I think a clear case in point where they made a choice of where to lie. For Levi Patrick Mwanawasa, it's even sad because he put his choice in a written, tested will. He even produced a video to that effect. But the state came in and said, because of national interest, they overrode his wishes and, you know, the wishes of the family, and decided that he should be put at Embassy Park. Was that an act of lawlessness, or does national interest even override the law?
There is nothing like that. Even national interest doesn't doesn't exist in a vacuum. Okay. Now, what it is here, to answer your question, yes, that was an act of lawlessness. Okay, because even as a president, first of all, you're a human being, right? You have a right to write a will in terms of how you'd like your death will have to be, what will happen once you die. Okay, and the law recognizes a will. We have the Wills Act in this country, okay, which recognizes one's last testament. So government or no one has the right to override that. Now, the fact that it was overridden, that was very sad. That was lawlessness. I mean, who defines, first of all, national interest? Okay, who defines it? Okay. Yeah, in any case, when you say national interest, what do you mean exactly? What is that? Okay. So these are the things that we should be able to learn from this experience and be able to put a legal framework. Okay. But at the end of the day, we should also provide for the fact that the person who is an former president may have his own desires. Okay. I mean, he may not desire to be buried at Embassy Park, right? And government should be able to, whoever the administration that is in office at that particular time, should be able to respect that. Okay? Right now, as we speak, government has no basis on which it can dictate. I've heard people say, oh, well, it's been done before. Yes, if you have done it before, it has been with the concurrence of the families of the deceased presidents. Okay? But the fact that you have done something before doesn't make it right, doesn't make it legal. Okay? So, what is required, I hope the administration will learn from this particular experience and give priority to make sure that we have a sound legal framework to govern such events so that everything is clear. Now, here's the problem. In the absence of the law, whatever government the administration is extending to the family is seen as favors, not rights. Okay? Now, if you extend a favor to me, I have the right to reject that favor. Okay? So, but if it is set in a statute, the family can claim that as a matter of right. Okay? Right now, even the extent of whatever is being extended to them is not known. What they're entitled to, they're not entitled is not known because there's no legal framework for that. Okay?
So, Counsel, before you go any further, what authority has government been using? Because we know of the 7 days for presidents and former presidents. We know of that is for declaration of national mourning, flying flags at half-mast and lying at Embassy Park. What regulates this? Is it precedent? Is it what authority is government using?
You've worked in the civil service. You're a better place to explain that. But I'm telling you, I've searched the law. There is no such a law. Okay? There is no legal framework for all these things that we do. Okay? Even you see the first starting point, even when you created the Embassy Park, if I remember correctly, the first person to be buried at Embassy Park was
Levi Mwanawasa.
Mwanawasa, yes. And you don't even, I can't even remember how that decision came about. Now, the first thing that government should have done is to designate, issue a law, to issue a law designating that place as a burial site for former presidents. There's nothing like that. Okay? Next, first of all, who is responsible for taking care of Embassy Park? Who is responsible? Do we know?
Well, provisionally it's done by Works and Supply, and I think they take it like they do to government properties.
Exactly, which should not be the case. So in this case, there should have been a clear law, designate the institution that to be responsible for managing that particular place, and also to provide a proper budget for the maintenance of that particular place. We don't have that. I've just heard that no, there should be even the 7 days of mourning and things like that, whatever. The point is that there is no, Parliament has never passed an act of Parliament to regulate such events. Okay, I've heard that there is some cabinet secular, what cabinet secular is not law. Ambassador, I'm sure you know that. Okay, so what should happen is that we should be a country of laws. When we respect the laws, we shouldn't have these kind of problems. And we have this kind of problems because we basically love lawlessness. Now, one of the problems you have is that in this state, who is controlling the expenditure, whatever money is being spent in this situation? Okay? Now, there are all manner of issues arising out of this situation. So these are the challenges that we face, and the best solution is to put in place a law to govern such events.
Coming down to this crisis, I'm glad that you've cited, for example, the Tanzanian law, which defines everything from who announces when someone dies and whether the person died, whether the president or former president died abroad or locally, and what needs to be done. And there's even a designated national cemetery. Clearly, we need a law. But in these circumstances where we are using ad hoc procedure and some precedent of how we handled Kenneth David Kaunda, Levi Mwanawasa, Rupia Banda, Frederick Chiluba, Michael Sata, now Edgar Lungu. You've been following this matter. What should happen?
Well, I think it's very simple, Ambassador. From where I stand, it's very simple. We respect the wishes of the family, right? So, Zambians should rally behind the family. Okay, they tell us what exactly they want us to do, and we give effect to that. That's all. It's as simple as that. Okay.
There is one contentious
issue. It is as
issue.
simple as that.
There's one contentious issue where it was requested that the head of state, I think recognizing the fractious relationship that existed between them, that he probably stays away from the process. Number one, the government is arguing that as a head of state, he has functions to perform. For example, when the service where there will be regional leaders, both current presidents and former heads of states come, clearly the president is a host and he should be allowed to be present. When the remains come, they think that as head of state, it's his presidential duty to go and receive those remains. Can you have a state function without the head of state?
Ambassador, one of the problems you have in all those things, the president doesn't act in a vacuum, okay? He needs the law to govern his actions, okay? All those things that you're talking about, where in the law are they stipulated? There is none, okay? There is none, yeah. So if somebody says, don't attend my funeral, Ambassador, what is wrong with that? What is wrong with that?
That his head of state is one of his presidential duties
yes,
too.
But I'm telling you, don't come to my funeral. Okay? What's wrong with that? What is wrong with that? Those are my wishes. Assuming that is indeed the position, okay? And even if indeed that's what the family wants, what is wrong with that? Now, if you are talking about, so there'll be foreign dignitaries coming, what and so forth, that's fine. then let the family sort out that. Okay? Maybe they'll be able to say, okay, fine, the head of state is not attending. How are we going to manage this process in the absence of the head of state? Okay? I mean, at the end of the day, Ambassador, we have to do what the family is saying in the absence of express legal provisions. Okay? So, because at the end of the day, it is the funeral for this family. This is the family that has lost a brother, they have lost a husband, they have lost a father, they have lost a grandfather. I mean, these are the people who should have a final say. Okay? Not us, not government, not the administration. Okay? Now, if there was a law, you can tell me what the law is. Okay? Now, for example, right, who has control over the body anyway? It's the family. It's the family who were with the deceased when he was getting sick and up to the time of his death. Who were there? Were we there? Was the government there? It's the family. Now, we have to respect these people. These are the people mourning. These are the people directly impacted by these particular laws. You know? And it is something very un-African. Anyway, you know, Ambassador, when we go there, whichever funeral you go to, there are people in charge. You can't just walk into somebody's funeral and begin to dictate what should happen. No, we find out. And at the end of the day, you determine what role you should play. Okay? If you go there, you realize, oh, people, there is no food or there is no charcoal. You go and buy charcoal and you put there. You know, you make your contribution, you walk away. But you don't take charge of the funeral. You don't. Okay? In the absence of the law, we have to give respect to the family. The family will tell us, if they can even tell us, you know what, we don't need government help. We have everything under control. We say, thank you very much. What is wrong with that, Ambassador? What is wrong with that? What is wrong with that?
So the complication and crisis that has emerged where, you know, even heads of states in the region have engaged our president. This matter has not just become a Zambian matter, it's a regional crisis, and now we are being reported across the world about this impasse. When President Emerson Mnangagwa, who has personal interest in this matter, first of all, because number one, they were classmates with Edgar Lungu. You know, they even obtained those honorary PhDs together. They had a personal relationship, and then, you know, they were co-leaders in SADC. He sent his vice president to come and help resolve this crisis. The president assured him that this matter will be resolved. There's no need for the late president to be buried outside the country, and there's no need for this impasse, that he was going to invest in the process to ensure that the remains of the late president were brought in and that the wishes of the family were respected and honored. And we saw a huge delegation led by Mulambo Haimbe, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, together with seniors like the former Vice President Enoch Kavindele and Leslie Mbola. And they sat with the family on one side. And then we saw that the matter was resolved. I think even the country was relieved. We congratulated both parties for this matter. Then the day of repatriation of the remains of the late president was today. Event started yesterday. A program was released, a program that was detailed and showed that the president will receive the remains of the late president. He will conduct, the army will conduct a military ceremony, and there will be a church service at the tarmac. And then, you know, tomorrow there is supposed to be body viewing, and the president will be the first one to view the body. So, according to the family, those immediately abrogated the agreement. I think the understanding with the family was that the president will participate, yes, will superintend over this funeral, but it will be the day, especially the day when he hosts his colleagues from the region on Sunday at Mungushi International Conference, where there's supposed to be a church service for VIPs and dignitaries and leaders from the region. And that is the major impasse. Among other things, there were political things. I think the political things like a funeral by invitation, where they sealed off the people who should be invited. Then they sealed off the airport road. I think those are more political than issues of the family. But the family's primary concern is the president's participation in the program. And the agreement was that he will participate, he will superintend, but I think his participation was defined, and they feel that this particular matter has been abrogated. It might seem small, but it has caused even a major, bigger crisis.
But also, Ambassador, I think we have to put these things into context.
Yeah.
Okay, when we look at it historically, I've dealt with the legal issues, but let's go to the political issue. Okay, to the political aspect. You and I know, right, that when President, this thing goes back to 2016, if you recall, right? Now, there was a general belief that the election of 2016 was stolen.
2015 or 2016? Okay, yeah.
2016. You remember that?
Yes.
Okay, and also even the way the election petition was
Handled.
ended up, it left bad blood. Okay, we have to go back to that. Okay, and if you remember, for a while, maybe throughout the tenure of President Lungu's second term, I think President the current president did not even recognize him as president, if you remember very well.
Yes.
Okay. Now, yeah. Okay. So we have, these things are not happening in a vacuum. There is context to these things. Okay. So there was already that bad blood. Now, you remember what then transpired to prove that he was actually head of state. The current president was arrested for a minor traffic offense. And what was the charge? Treason. Okay? So these are all issues that have to be borne into in context. Now, tables reversed. Okay? The current president is in power. The former president is out of power. And we all know what has transpired ever since, okay, President Lungu left office in 2021. We know the relationship has not been smooth. Okay, so all these factors, now we can't just wake up one day and pretend that everything is okay. We can't. Okay, this is the genesis of all these things. So when we discuss these things, we have to look at it from that context. Okay, and the other point, which I think other people have said, is that, listen, look at the way you treated the man. Okay, he made several attempts to try and go and seek medical help. And the administration turned down all those efforts, okay? And the man had to sneak out of the country like a common criminal. But this is the reality, okay? And that is possibly, I'm not speaking as a family spokesperson, but as a follower of political events in this country, we can't ignore that background, okay? And it is that background that calls for sober-mindedness. Okay, that calls for compromise, for people to be able to respect one another. When there is an agreement entered into, okay, we respect that. Okay, now I can understand the family's alarm. Okay, they feel we had an agreement before we even land with the body. These things are being abrogated already. There is absolute mistrust between the two camps. Okay, so the issue I think can be resolved is very simple to resolve this. All what they need is the administration to just comply with the wishes of the family. Okay? So, and then all these things I'd like to believe will be resolved. But at the end of the day, even speaking as an African, we give respect to the bereaved families. We don't dictate to the bereaved family. We don't. We support them. If they would tell us when they would like the body to be buried, they would dictate. They even have the right to dictate what the deceased, the clothing that to be given to the deceased. They have a say in all these things. Yes, there is this notion to say, well, he was no common man and everything else. But the truth of the matter is that you are president. When you leave office, you are not an ordinary human being. Okay? That is the position. Now, in the absence of a law conferring you additional rights, you are not an ordinary person. Okay? So these are the challenges that we have as a country. And I hope we can learn something from this. But I think it's quite easy to diffuse the situation. If people are genuinely interested, there is no any other ulterior motive. I don't see why we can't reach, there can be no compromise. Looking at things from the family's perspective, they now say, before we land, the body lands, you've already abrogated the terms of the agreement. What more when you get into the country? What do you think will happen? So you can understand from that perspective. Okay.
There is a matter related to the law. The president on 28th October 2023 returned to active politics. He renounced his pensions and benefits, which entitles him to security, 80% of the president's salary, to an office. It also entitles him to a construction of a house of his choice. He forgo or forwent all these pensions and benefits as provided for under the 1993 former President's Benefits Act. In death, does he reclaim these issues? Because again, the state is trying to use that his former president.
How can you reclaim in death what you didn't enjoy?
They are saying since he died, he has stopped politics. Therefore, will the state has a right to deal with him as a like they are saying is a property of the state, which notion you have immediately rejected.
No, you can't blow hot and cold. What was he? He died as a politician. As far as they are concerned, he died as a person who is in active politics. The question is, do those benefits accrue? The answer is that they don't. Okay? So you cannot, in death, enjoy rights which you didn't have when you are alive. How? How does that happen? Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, it can't. I mean, these are the things that we should learn from. That sometimes certain decisions should not be driven by political considerations. Okay? When you begin to target certain individuals, this is what happens. Now, when you are a former head of state, whether you take part in active politics or not, that shouldn't change. And once you have served, those benefits have already accrued to you. But unfortunately, we amended the law. Okay? As the law stands, the family of the deceased are not entitled to any rights under that particular act. They're not entitled to any benefits. Okay? That's what it means. So you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent. You cannot say in one breath you don't have you can't enjoy these rights, and in another instance you say you can. No. Okay? At death, it is the benefits that you've been enjoying whilst you're alive which crystallize at your demise. Okay? We can begin to confer on you new rights when you die.
The agreement that was hammered out on Monday and Tuesday, is it a legal document? Can you action it out? Because the family is
of course you can't, Ambassador. This was just an understanding. This was just an understanding, a compromise. Okay? It's not a legally binding instrument. It's not. Okay? Yeah, it's just an understanding. To say, okay, fine, this as a compromise, you'll do this, you'll do that, and this is what is going to happen. Now, why did they go to do that, Ambassador? Why did they enter into that agreement? They entered into the agreement in recognition of the fact that there is no law dealing with the situation. Okay? If there was a law, there would have been no need for that agreement.
Everyone would have referred to the law.
Would have been laid out. Yes. And the very fact that they entered into that agreement is a recognition of by the administration that they have no legal authority. Because why would you enter into an agreement when you know that you already have rights under the law? Why would you do that? Okay? They entered, they reached that understanding. They had to send emissaries to reach that understanding. Why? Because they recognize that they don't have the legal authority to do anything in this matter. Okay? So, but if they had, there would have been no need for this particular agreement. Okay? Because then everything that would have been following the law smoothly, the family would have been legally guided, and the administration would have also been legally guided. Okay? Now, the fact that there is no law, that is why there was this initiative to try and reach an understanding. And whatever they reach is basically a gentleman's agreement, okay, which now they cried foul to say it's already been abrogated before it could even be actuated fully. Okay? So the very fact that they entered into that agreement, Ambassador, cements the fact that there is no legal framework to govern this arrangement. That is why they had to agree on all these things, what is going to happen when the body lands and everything else. And that is because there is no law. Okay? That agreement then was going to be the framework within which this particular funeral was going to be conducted. Now they are saying, wait a minute, you have already abrogated what you have agreed upon, what we agreed upon.
Yeah. Difficult one, counsel. Very, very difficult one. What would you say?
No, it's not difficult, Ambassador. If there is a good faith, if people can all be genuine and act in good faith, it's a very simple matter to resolve. Okay?
No, if it's not a legal agreement, it's even worse, because politicians are not known to honor agreements, to honor their own promises.
So you can understand the predicament of the family anyway.
Because politicians, if it's not a binding agreement, look, they walk away from promises they make.
Politicians abrogate even the documents that they signed before the ink has dried. They even abrogate them. They sign things which they know very well that have no intention of
honoring,
of respecting. Yes. So you can understand the predicament of the family. You know.
Now, you are just not a renowned lawyer, of good standing. You are, a thought leader in our country. You provide opinions on various issues. What would you say, first of all, to President Hakainde Hichilema? What would you say to him? Two, what would you say to the Zambians that are saying, look, this man was our president. I woke up at 04, queued up and voted for him. I want to mourn my president. Can that opportunity be available to me? So what would you say to President and then to the people of Zambia that are anguished and, are surprised by the confusion that has gripped this funeral?
My point to the president is very simple. Respect the wishes of the family. Okay? If there is anybody, of course, there are so many people who have now come up who are turning out to be mind readers who may have read what President Lungu was thinking. But if there is anyone who can tell us what President Lungu thinking was whilst alive, it's the family. Okay? It's the family. And at the end of the day, we have to respect the wishes of the family. Okay? And most importantly, it is the family that have lost. Okay? So in this case, my plea to the president would be respect the wishes of the family and facilitate the realization of their wishes. Okay? So that we put this issue to bed. Okay? To my fellow Zambians, and I'm saying that, you know what? We need to support the bereaved family. Because these are the people, yes, he's our president and so forth. It is sad that he's died. But the people that have lost, that have experienced that void, it's not us as Zambians. It is the immediate family. Now, this immediate family deserves our support. I know it can be frustrating and there are so many voices being thrown around here and there. But at the end of the day, the most African and humane thing to do is for us to respect the family's wishes. We have to do everything possible in our power to help the family that has lost a dear one. That is our responsibility. Our wishes as Zambians are inconsequential. Yes, Ambassador, I may have voted for him, but beyond that, what else is there? Okay?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
inconsequential. Yeah. But the people that have been directly impacted is the family. Okay? It is the family. And our primary obligation must be to the family, not to anything else. Even our pride, we have to put it aside. And my plea to the president would be, allow the family's wishes. If they say, listen, we don't want you there, well then good. Why not respect that? Why not respect that? Now, you are saying you brought in the argument, so what about the other foreign head of states? The starting point is to accept. If the president accepts that, then other arrangements can be made in terms of how other presidents would do. Those presidents who want to come, separate arrangements can be made. I don't think that is impossible. You know, if people are genuinely interested in putting this issue to bed, we should be able to find a solution. Okay, so for that would be my take. Okay, yes, the people directly impacted is the family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's the sister, it's the wife, it's the children, it is the grandchildren. Those people, those are the people that have suffered loss. Yes, it feels bad, but we're not the ones experiencing the void.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it is them. We should be sympathetic to them, not to the government, not to the administration. No. Our primary focus is on the family, not the government, not us. How we feel, how the president feels, how I feel as a citizen is inconsequential in this general scheme of things. The priority should be the family and respect their wishes so that they bury their loved ones. We help them to bury their loved one.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
it appears
That would be
people.
my take.
Yeah, people kept on thinking that the president's interest should override because he's looking at state and national interest, and therefore, you know, his posture and his disposition in carrying out his function should override even family interest. Like family interests are just a minuscule part of the interest, but I think you've made it very, very clear. In the absence of the law, it's our duty as Africans, and I think as convention demands, that we respect, especially in issues of death, the wishes of the family. Yeah.
And even if those who are talking about conventions and everything else, all those things that they say the president should do, where are they written? Where? Yeah.
Counsel,
And
I know you didn't give me a lot of time, but I don't know if we can take a few phone calls, and then, you know, then I let you go. I think you've guided very well. We need the law. There's no law. We need to, for example, draw, for example, from the Tanzanian law, they've stipulated a very detailed law, including where the remains are put. They don't have necessarily to be put where the cemetery is, you know. I think that is the way to go. I've seen here Professor Faxon Banda. Professor Faxon Banda, this is what he has just posted on his page. You know Professor Faxon Banda, he used to be your neighbor in the past. I think he's based in Europe now. He says Edgar Lungu wanted to have the last word, irrevocable word on Hakainde Hichilema. Then he has appealed to President Hakainde Hichilema to let your vice president preside over this state funeral, end the misery. I think that is an advice from our dear brother Faxon. So let me just pick this course and we hear what people are saying. Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Patrick from the UK, please make your quick contributions. I'm hosting Mr. John Sangwa and is listening to you right now.
And I've been watching.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, State Counsel, a pleasure to see you.
Thank you.
We really miss your leadership and counsel.
Thank you, my brother.
I've been listening and I'm so happy that you've really solved a big problem in the country. because people were throwing stones here and there. You've explained it clearly, and I think the nation has listened. My only question, State Counsel, I just want you to clarify something. When the president, I think, was visited by some, I think, vice president from Zimbabwe, there's a video, Ambassador Mwamba, which has been circulating. I even posted it on my Facebook, where the president was saying, was assuring this delegate that everything is going to be resolved and it has to be through dialogue. And then he also mentioned that he could have used, he alluded to the fact that he could have used state powers, to override everything. But he believes his administration will go for the dialogue. What kind of state powers can the president use in this situation?
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick Chilufya from the United Kingdom. Counsel, before you answer, there is a queue of phone calls. Maybe just we take note. The president, when he hosted Honorable Constantine Chiwenga, the first vice president of Zimbabwe, he said he's acting with restraint, that he's not going to use state power to resolve this matter. It appeared like, can the president pick the body from South Africa, liaise with his colleague from South Africa and bring the body and bury it? Because he gave that impression, and I'm glad that Patrick has raised that issue. We have a caller from, please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Can I remain anonymous, please?
That is okay. Please, I'm hosting Mr. John Sangwa, State Counsel, renowned lawyer, constitutional and human rights lawyer. Please make your contributions or question to Mr. Sangwa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ambassador Mwamba. Good evening, Basangwa.
Good evening.
Excellent and insightful conversation, and I must say that it was a very good lecture. I felt like I was in an auditorium and just gotten very, very wise. Like the previous caller, I would like to believe that majority Zambians have listened. You have been asked very, very good questions that majority of us have had and not having access to somebody to respond to. And what a time to say yes to appear on this program and on this platform, because we know you as not to disrespect, but as not a cadre. You have maintained your status, and please continue being that. Continue being the professional, the technocrat that you are, because today I feel like just giving you a hug and just cry that we needed your voice, because you've responded professionally. And I would like to also state that I wish we had an opportunity where the state can actually prevent people like me, who is not a lawyer, who does not understand the legal understanding of some statement, because I have a following and therefore I can go out there and mislead the masses. You see, you have explained from a Zambian point of view, from a family point of view, but then from a leader point of view, you have touched on everything. Above all, you have said, Uri Chililo. There's a family that is grieving. And all these questions, there's a lot that I would say, but please just receive your flowers, Basangwa. And thank you very much for appearing tonight. We needed that voice. And I dearly hope that people will not attack you, but it will come to settle, and that tomorrow maybe the Lungus can say yes. Because what we heard from Makebi was like indefinite, and that is not too good. So thank you, Bamwamba, once again, and thank you, Basangwa. Receive your flowers, dear brother.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Oh, Counsel, there are rare times when we receive such commendation, and it has come from, women are gracious. They say what is in their heart. Congratulations. Let me take another call. Hello, good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Yes, good evening, Ambassador.
Good evening.
Good evening, Counsel.
Just kindly speak up.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening, State Counsel.
Good evening. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Please, two thoughts. I've heard people talk about treason in this whole thing. I've heard people say. I've heard people say. I've heard people say, Counsel Makibi Zulu risks to be cited for treason, and then this argument is actually coming from the issue of having a state funeral in the absence of the head of state. And someone was saying that how can you have the Zambia army presiding over a funeral without the commander-in-chief? I don't know your take on that one. Thank you.
Counsel, the lines have queued up. Maybe you can answer those two questions chiefly. The one from Chilufya, where when the president hosted the special envoy from President Emerson Mnangagwa, when he hosted the vice president, he says, I'm reluctant to use my state powers. I want to go the route of dialogue. He presented like there is an opportunity for him to use state power. In your understanding of presidential powers, what did you understand?
What state powers does he mean? Okay, I'd like to be educated on that. Okay, because the point is this: when you're a public officer, ambassador, you have worked in government before.
Yeah.
Every decision you have made has been backed up by law. Okay? Even when you receive a per diem, there is a legal backing for that. Okay? And you are required to retire that there are procedures in government. Okay? Now, when the president says he is reluctant to use state power, which state power? Other than engaging in lawlessness. Okay? There is absolutely none. There is none. So when he says that, it is basically suggesting that he's ready to engage in acts of lawlessness, because there's absolutely no law to back up whatever they're trying to do.
W.K. Mutale Nalumango in Parliament last week, when a question and answer session emerged, she stated that some of the proposals coming from the family were treasonous, and she threatened that if anyone held a state funeral without the presence of the head of state, they will have committed treason. What is your view of that?
Yeah, but I mean, you know, sometimes, that's why we should be careful of the people we elect. Some people, some of the comments they make are dangerous in themselves. Okay, because first of all, I mean, this is a funeral. Even from a legal point of view, even if somebody died intestate without a will and so forth, the people have immediate say. It is the wife and the surviving spouse and the children. Now, you are now saying state funeral or treason. How can it be treason if the family says we're not bringing the body, or we want it done this way? But even when you are and it brings us back to the issue we are talking about, Ambassador, all these things we are talking about, state funeral and so forth, there is absolutely no legal framework governing that. Okay? Now, also remember, it is when you are given a state funeral, it is a recognition. It is a privilege, right?
Yeah.
Now, what stops me from rejecting that privilege? Okay? Yeah, the family is at liberty to reject that. They can. Okay? Yes, you have recognized our deceased, what and what, but no, thank you. We are not accepting. What is wrong with that? So there is no such a thing as treason in the circumstances of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Nothing. Okay? Which law has been violated? Which law?
Yeah.
Okay, what is it? What at the end of the day, we are simply saying the wishes of the families that Mr. ABCD should not attend the funeral. What is wrong with that?
Okay, Counsel, let's take some more questions. Hello, good evening.
Yes.
Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Good evening. Please just speak up, tell us where you are calling us from, and make your question to Honorable State Counsel.
All right, thank you very much. This is Sam Bewe. State Counsel, how are you?
I am very well, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. For me, I think it's mainly a contribution. And, you know, as citizenry of this country, we wonder when one gets into office how safe the country is. Because when you talk about what's happening in the country right now, especially when we are mourning the president, if you come to a normal place like Matero, for example, people are giving objective reasoning where they are telling you that, look, why can't the government do this? And why can't the family do this? And so for me, I think it's a matter of wondering if when you get into the State House, do you forget the principles of life where you are supposed to be objective? Because from this broadcast, you have said things, and I think the way you actually put a lot of things, it's not been about you being, you know, a technocrat, but it's been about being African and being Zambian and being cultured. Our culture demands that you respect the dead, number one. And like you said in your conversation, respect the family, because the family are the ones that are feeling it. The Bembas, my Mbuya say, "Ichikali bachimfo mwine." But with what is happening right now, we are wondering if State House or Community House is receiving the counsel that you have. You know, from the word go, a lot of people have been asking, why didn't the president ask the former vice president, Madam Inonge Wina? Because the family has always respected that lady. Even the country at large has respected that lady. But we're seeing a situation where it looks like only the UPND are trying to handle this. And of course, we know the impasse that is between the family and the party UPND. So for me, my question or my contribution or whatever it is that will be is, when people get into power or State House, is there something that happens to them that they stop reasoning?
Thank you. I used to tell my friends, I said, look, I've been in government for such a long time, but I do see how we quickly change when we get into these big offices, air-conditioned office, a big car, and all of a sudden you think you are a better citizen than everybody else, Yeah, let me take some more calls, Counsel. I already have 129 missed calls. So let me just see, you have an audience, and I think they're trying to hear from you. Let's just hold on. The line is so congested, it's just cutting the lines. Just hold on, sir. Oh, come on. Good evening. Please keep it short. There are so many calls that are trying to come in. Introduce yourself quickly. Introduce yourself quickly and make your contribution or question to State Counsel.
My apologies. You're speaking to Tiza Mkuka, and I am the youth advocate in Zambia. So I want to speak and contribute on behalf of the Zambian youths.
Please.
State Counsel, how are you doing?
I am well, thank you.
I'm happy to speak to you and just learn from your wise wisdom on this program. Thanks to Emmanuel Mwamba, Ambassador, for putting it across.
Thank you, Tiza. Quickly make your contribution or your question.
Yes, to you, State Counsel. Of course, we have all been observing what has been unfolding in the country. So I just want to ask you, from a legal point of view, from the Edgar Lungu's family, the steps that they've taken so far, and even if they were to really conclude on burying the former president's remains in South Africa, are they breaking any law or whatsoever? And also those that have been siding with them so far since the whole battle began? Is there any law that has been broken, and is there any law that prevents the former head of state? We understand that he's state property. Is there any law that prevents him from being buried in a different country apart from Zambia? That's my question to you, State Counsel.
Thank you, Teaser. Thank you. Let's just take some more questions. Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
My name is Kapwimbi. Batangwa, how are you? I'll be very quick.
I am well, thank you.
I just want to, yes. Batangwa, I'm a fellow Priva Mwamba, and I want to find out, Secretary to the Cabinet, Kangwa, are there any repercussions for someone like that coming out to openly lie? Lungu, we gave him granted. We've been watching. Is there anything, can something be done about that kind of lies? You know, that's why we are developing this kind of hatred. You see your president, and then you look at him, and then you say, these people are liars. Whoever are educated and things like that, as we work with tools, are there any repercussions for people like you in those serious political things? Because it has drained us. And I'll end because this is my question to you. Whoever comes,
Counsel, you have 3 questions. Let's start with, I think Sam asked about, principles of the country. Then we have Teaser, the young man who says, has the family and those supporting them broken any law? Can they be cited for any law in the manner they've managed the remains of the late president or the way they've been negotiating? And the last one is the Secretary to Cabinet lied, and then he bemoans that politicians are lying. Is there a sanction or effects for liars? It's like it has now been normalized. You can answer those quick ones.
Yeah, remind me about the first question. I didn't jot it down.
Sam is asking about how safe the country is if principles which are supposed to be ordinary are broken. Is the country safe? Because if he feels that the state with the threatening position is breaking some principles, probably of peace and security. Then the second one is Teaser. Has anyone broken the law in the manner they've handled the remains of the late president? Then the lies, they've been normalized. Are there sanctions or effects to the lies?
Yeah. Okay. Let me start with you see that this is what the conversation has been all about. There is no law, okay? So whatever the family has decided to do, it is entirely their prerogative. They can decide if they so wish to bury the remains of President Lungu in South Africa or wherever they want to. That's their wishes. And our job is simply to support them. If they think they'll be doing the right thing and it will be in accord with the wishes of the deceased, that is all. They can do that. There'll be no law that will be broken. Okay, there is no law. There is no law which stipulates which governs this particular situation. Okay, and whatever has been happening here is a very sad situation. Common sense should have prevailed, and that is what we should have been looking at. But obviously, when people have some other ulterior motives, it becomes very difficult. Even things that should be driven by common sense are not actually driven by common sense. But to answer the first question, the second question is that no law has been broken. They are perfectly at liberty. The body is under their control, so they can decide what to do with it. It's entirely up to them. Okay. The second question, the third question. Let me go to the third question. You see, unfortunately, you are dealing with Secretary to the Cabinet. He's not an elected official; he's an appointed official. Okay, but for those elected officials who tell lies, the only penalty you have is to make sure that they don't get re-elected. Okay.
Yeah, wonderful.
Because when you are, hello?
Yeah, proceed. Finish your thoughts. I wanted to encourage other people to come in.
When you are an elected officer, when you are elected is a privilege. Okay, it's not a right to get elected. When you're elected either president, member of parliament, councillor, or mayor, it's a privilege. You are there to serve the people. You cannot turn around and start lying to the people that elected you. And when you do that, you have betrayed that privilege. You have betrayed that trust. And the only penalty available is to make sure that such people are never re-elected. That's the only penalty you can impose.
Wonderful.
Now, the first,
Let me take some three calls, counsel. I know I'll disrupt you, but let's just see how many calls we can quickly take, and then we allow you to go. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from, and make it short.
Good evening, Ambassador. I'd rather remain anonymous.
That is fine.
Good evening, Counsel Chagwa. Thank you so much for your submission. It's people like you that give us hope that this nation still has decent leaders. People that are not given to bread or, but they really love this nation with a passion. Men that are decent and love Zambia as it is.
Thank you.
I only have one question. I think I saw something that was written from the Law Association of Zambia, where they say that that it cannot be that the president's absence from this funeral would not be national mourning or something like that. And they stated that the president has to be there. It should be taken by, if it should be considered national mourning because he's the hosting president. I just wanted to shed more light on that. And then if truly what Law Association of Zambia wrote is wrong, I'm wondering what premise and in whose interest they write that, and especially where they stated that the president has to be there for it to be considered national mourning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Let's just take some more questions. Let's just.
Ambassador, can I answer this one first?
Okay, before you lose your thoughts, okay, proceed. They will hold on.
I spent 20 years teaching law students at the University of Zambia. And the point that I always used to say, before you open your mouth, check the law.
Yeah.
Okay? And whatever you say, it must be backed up by law. And I've just explained, even all these things that we're talking about, national mourning and everything else, state funeral, there is no law. Okay? There is no law. So I don't know where the Law Association got it from to say that the presence of the president makes it a state funeral. I don't know. I don't see the connection between
counsel,
the two.
they cited your own case, the Kaweche versus Secretary to Cabinet.
Was all about I did that case, and in fact, that case was driven by the fact that we are challenging the decision of the government because we were saying you have no powers to do what you're about to do.
What was the ruling, to your knowledge, by the court?
Pardon?
What was the ruling of the court on that matter?
Yes, but anyway, interestingly, whatever, because it's a complicated issue. But the point is that we're applying for judicial review of the decision to hang on to the body. Okay? But that decision came out, the judicial review was refused. In no way did the court go to the merit of the matter, and it couldn't have done that. But in any case, remember, this particular decision came after the burial had already been taken place anyway. Okay, so there was no opportunity to interrogate this thing. And the position of the law still remains. There is no statute. The parliament has never passed a law to govern this situation.
Now, wonderful,
in
counsel.
the absence of the law, the rest of the arguments remain moral arguments. They are not legal arguments. They are moral arguments, which you are perfect at liberty to disagree with.
And lawyers
So
should
your
be
moral
lawyers should be encouraged to leave moral arguments to the church.
Exactly. Okay. So we go by the law. They should be able to cite the act passed by Parliament which regulates this particular arrangement. I know somebody else was saying, no, there is a secular what, and I said, well, a secular like that will have to be based on an act of Parliament. And there is no such an act of Parliament. Even seculars don't exist in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Counsel, let me just take these two calls quickly. Hello, my brother, please. I don't know if you are my brother or sister. Make your introduce yourself and make your contributions quickly.
Guys, my name. Good evening, Ambassador, and good evening, Counsel.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you.
simple question. Firstly, I would like to say that I've loved your counsel and your conversation. My question is, looking at what the president did on is it Belvedere Lodge when he went to sign in the condolences, he had to thumb up, lift up his thumb as if he was acknowledging that was that presidential. Because all the time you talk about presidential, even whatever he says, whatever he does, you say it's unpresidential. I need your comment from that, counsel. Thank you so much.
Counsel, you have to go in the realm of, like we are saying, in the realm of morals and postures. Hello, good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
This is Councillor for Kabanana, Katongo Joseph.
Okay, Bakatongo Joseph, make.
Yo turife wino mukwaye balishani. Awe ndife wino. In question kwetende for kushaya kwebati. Is there a law which prohibits, because twali muno kwebati ama book of condolences yali okuingisana. Is there a law which prohibits not having a lot of book of condolences? That's the question I have. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Counsel.
Yes. Thumbs up. I don't know whether, today you can doctor pictures, right?
Yes.
But let's proceed on the premise that is a genuine photo, right?
Yeah. Counsel, just hold on. There's another call, especially, I think. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Or Kaputa, and you remain anonymous. Mayo Landeni, what are your contributions or questions?
Totela chakutila imwe basangwa na bamwamba ifinde fu mulondola history ya chalo chesu mulapanga ma references aya chishinga ndiye milomba kokutila muchiteko research shino shinenshi kungana mwishi bakale chinalala ndapo mutu wasuke mu 1990 or 91 nishikiri mu unit, just the downfall of unit, rise of MMD kwalifwile ba President David Kaunda's special advisor ba Mr. Kazunga or Kazunga. Elo same week, almost same day, kwa Zambia High Commissioner to India, ba Yunya Mwila. Elo that same week, kwa David Yumba, ni ba radio presenter, Bemba section, kuze NBC. Kashi Kaunda ba declare, maybe after 24 hours or within that 24 hours, ba Yunya Mwila ba ku India, whatever time we caught up nechiro chidia, kwena ba lichitire announce wangu. Akasumata kalawa ba David Yumba bafwa ba Kasunga bafwa. So now next day President Batile declare national mourning for these 3 funerals, 3 different houses, 3 different residential areas. Kwali chilo ku Olympia, kwali chilo mu Independence Avenue pali ba David Yumba, ichaba Yunya Mwila chali ku Olympia Martin Mwamba Road. Ichaba Kasunga I don't know shibe wino mkwai. But icho ndela ndapo nichi. The day of burial was one. If it the Cathedral of the Holy Cross Church Road, Independence Avenue corners up. 3 groups of families. Abantu abengi sana and UNIP was in power. Abantu abengi. Now, declared 1 week morning twice Africa palapakushika. By President Kaunda. Tabadi muchalo. He flew out to some other country, Kwajama presidential something, and he went out. Kwenanga shat monitor winobuna chintu. Bunch the correct in there, Lombokutila, but state funeral kutiaba, the president is not there. Trump to America. Nina knew a freedom to attend his funeral, saying and Trump sent a representative. Wasn't it still a state funeral? High Commissioner to India, Special Advisor to
to the president, Kenneth David Kaunda. ZNBC radio station Bemba presenter David Rumbabali from the struggle for independence to where Vice Bemba presenter Filafine radio station. Actually, just state funeral can fetch in a kuli kateka takwete ba representative abako batinangu nabamuganya ku family abatuwisako natwatama reasons atuma ba representative bamayo bamutale na lumango balela ndokutila it can't be a state funeral ngakuli head of state ngero kakati DK first president in the Republic of Zambia ashayile kutilo he wasn't barred by anybody. Takuliko bamukenya bonse abali my favorite Kaunda bayunya mwila badetumba na bakazunga people working in his close circles obuteko bwa petike state funeral yamkwai tema state funerals yali akushemkwai mwe bantu basanga imwe mule panga kwa workshops ya mumwa twita kufechi nkaba bonse twaisa tulemfa kupamula basa bantu chamuneka kwa tino tufe twali kwata nangu mutu sale tufuba ba MP na fishila finshi twali pantu tejonso ku university atelo amano ya fulisha limbi nokubelenga material here and there tulaba equipped in life so mwela usumange fitinena kwa kaputa tulemfa kwa fingi tuishi kwa yama state funerals chako selapo bantu ukutela kutuika alidefe n'abana beso abaliye mu politics inonshita chikaleba kusela kuntanshi tusambilishe and bwinba kwate ko pure thoughts kwishita chinde chita nangwe pondira ngushiripo nabambi kuti bachita.
Thank you very much. Oh my, that was a powerful question in itself, teaching us and reliving history and the specific example, unique in its nature. Very good case. Counsel, you have 3 questions. Let's start with the councillor from Kabanana, and then the lady from Kaputa. I think they're all asking, can a state funeral take place without the president? I think that's a core issue.
Yeah, it's not the president that makes a state funeral. It's not the presence of the president that makes a state funeral. Okay? Now, and we're having these problems because the law doesn't define it. Okay? But if we are to borrow what is happening in Tanzania, it is the identity of the person, because they themselves, they define a state funeral. Okay, as to and it has everything to. It's not every death that is declared a state funeral. No, it's not. It is the status of the office occupied by the deceased that entitles that person's death to be declared a state funeral. Okay, it has nothing to do with the presence or absence of the presence or absence of the sitting president to in attending the funeral that makes it a state funeral. There's no such a thing. Okay. Yeah. So the Kabarana, this is for the lady from Kaputa. She has a point. Okay, the president need not attend. What is required is that there was that recognition, and it is declared. Okay, the state funeral and all the proceedings, the procedures are followed. You do not need the president, okay, to attend in order for it to be transformed into the character of a funeral is not defined by the presence or absence of the president. It's not. Okay, even if we put aside the law, it is normally, even if we go by the practice, it is normally, I think, this status or privilege is extended to, I think, former cabinet ministers. Is it up to cabinet minister, I think, and former presidents? Okay, it is an entitlement. That is what is makes it a state funeral or not state funeral. Okay, not the presence or absence. The presence or absence of a sitting president is inconsequential to the whole process. Yeah, and the Kabanana issue, you just have to remind me about the gentleman.
The councillor. No, it was in the light of the same issue. Like many people, they thought that there is a law, that Embassy Park has been designated as a funeral place for presidents. But you've already explained. Let me take this other call. Yes. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador. This is Professor Siame
Professor Siame Felix, kindly mute your device that you are listening to us on so that there is no feedback. Professor Felix Siame is a man of God and is based in South Africa. I think, are you still in Durban, Professor?
Yes, but I'm in Zambia. I lost my dad, so I was in Zambia.
Oh, our dear condolences, and thank you for finding time to watch the program. Please make your contribution or ask State Counsel.
Good evening, State Counsel Sangwa.
Good evening. Thank you.
Okay, so having spoken about my funeral, I lost my dad, Judge Lloyd Siame. And we had...
okay.
Lots of judges were coming home every night asking us, this is how we do it as judges. What do you think as a family? I think they were consulting us on how things are supposed to be done before they could tell us what they want to do. So I'm trying to say that the inconsistency of the current government is actually exposing, the incompetence of the people working with the president. No, treason, if this doesn't happen. And then the other one says, no, with or without the family, we must do ABCD. So my question will probably be tonight is, what is the motive of the person that is not allowed to attend the funeral, wanting to attend the funeral? What do you think would be the reason why they're insisting on something?
Professor Felix Siame, you are a man of God. Those are the matters you deal with. You are in the superstition divine area. Kindly proffer your opinion before ilo tamulatanika basangwa. Basangwa drova tumatanike na mafunde. As a man of God, my professor, have you faced a similar situation? Just tell us. You help us.
I know I owe your program, Ambassador, but we'll talk about that in depth when you allow me to. But in my view, I know the reason, because these are spiritual matters. And I think I posted something earlier on Facebook. I'm trying to get more of wisdom on the legal part of it as we are getting counseled by the State Council.
In summary, what did you say from the spiritual perspective? Then counsel will pick it up from the legal perspective.
I was saying this afternoon that, without mentioning names, there are so many politicians. Could there be people that interested in the stuff? Because in the Bible, if we have to talk about this man of God now, in the Bible, in the book of Matthew chapter 2, about a man called Jesus who was born, there was a King Herod who was looking for his body, so they must kill him and do something with the body. And then also another man called Moses. When he was born at the time that they were killing the firstborns, but somehow the mother hid him, for 90 days. Moses was wanted dead or alive until the time he died. The Bible says in the book of Jude that the devil himself still wanted to go and exhume the body. When Moses died, we are told in Deuteronomy, chapter 34, that God did not allow the burial. God buried Moses himself. In Deuteronomy 34, verse 1 to 6. Now, the implication of wanting to say we want to have a body, maybe have a private session of the body, is what for me, as a man of God, I want to find out what could be the reason. Because when Mwamba was born and Basangwa, what makes Basangwa is because you carry a star. When you are born, when Jesus was born, the Bible says the wise men followed his star. It doesn't say they followed a star. They said they followed his star. They knew because they are astrologers. They knew that star represents a king born. They followed a star until it stopped somewhere. Then they knew it must be around here. They began to search in those homes around where the star was standing. So I came to believe that every individual is born. That star is the virtues that you have. That is unique virtues. Now, my write-up was, could there be people following after that virtue? Because this confusion, let me use the word confusion in the spiritual realm, it's actually defining something that is very, interesting. What is it that people are after over this funeral of the late, king or president of Zambia? Because we have seen it on Manawasa, on Wakaunda, on Vasata, and the rest. There wasn't this type of confusion. So for me, that is my area I would like to explain. Is there are people that are looking for his star, because it seemed that it was a strong star that people would want to know what they could carry to get their virtues renewed or revived
strengthened or fortified.
Vasia elo mwalanda nomba, and our dear condolences again, once again, and may the soul of Judge Lloyd Siame, rest in eternal peace. But you've raised before this good explanation, you've raised an important question that when you lost Judge Siame, the judiciary was constantly with your family. What should we do? Even when they knew what should be done. I think for me, that is, counsel, that is a bit profound. Maybe you can answer that particular issue.
Yeah, but Ambassador, that is a matter of common sense. Okay? You didn't hear the judiciary say, we are taking over because he was one of us. No. Okay? We have a set practice where, for example, a rare privilege is given where there is a valedictory service is conducted. In RICO, not every lawyer will be accorded a valedictory service. It is only those that have there's controversy as to whether a lawyer of good standing should, who is not a good standing, should be accorded one or not. But the point is that these arrangements are always done with the consultation of the family. The judiciary does not impose on the family. Okay? For example, it's possible if, we'll die, I can actually say in my will to say, when I die, I don't want a valedictory service conducted for me. That's my prerogative. Okay? But the judiciary or the legal profession cannot come and insist, no, we have to give this man a valedictory service. No, they'll have to respect my wishes. Okay? And even if, let's say, my family says we're not interested for whatever reason, we're not interested in a valedictory service, the law association, neither the Law Association of Zambia nor the judiciary will insist on according me one. Okay? So it's a matter of simple common sense. Okay? People, you want to extend the privilege. People are saying we don't want it. So what is complicated about that?
Yeah.
You know?
Let's take this call, counsel. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from and your contribution.
My name's Agnes Mwinda-Sumasiko, calling from Atlanta, Georgia.
Yes, Agnes.
Yes, my contribution is for Mr. Chagwa and even for the nation. As somebody who has been around, I always call myself a Kaunda girl. I've been around from the time of Kaunda, then Chiluba, Mwanawasa, all the presidents up to the late Edgar Lungu. But my heart is bleeding. Why is it bleeding? It's because of what I'm seeing. I'm also a Catholic, a staunch Catholic and everything, but my heart is bleeding the way we are handling this whole issue. If I want to say as Zambians, that if we kuvika umuchele pafironda, we are supposed to move as one country, as one Zambia, one nation. Whatever we say, tufilo kumana bushetule afa, bali abale losha, nangu ichalo cha Zambia, not to kukwata for interest here, because politicizing the funeral or whatever. That's what I can call it. But different and different but we want to akwalesa. Tieni tulombelesa, tubike ba former heads of state, muchi vote, unity. Twipasanganya ichalo echo balesa mukulu batupela. Ichalo echo bakaunda na bonsa bashala really for us to even say that we are an independent country and everything. Tuona ule ichalo cha Zambia. Let's unite together. Muchinshi necho tulelanda na mobe na mkwai ba sangwande lomba na mkwali ba malozo whatever, but ubuntu unsafe as a Christian and whatever, and the Zambian na ba mwamba bonse, let's work together, even the entire country. Let's show love. Not only for us, for kanaba na besu imiti kula empanga. Because if we do this type of politics and whatever, what's going to happen to our own children, the future generation? In Ndelanda, I'm like talking about Edgar Lungu in the 60s or whatever. I'm in my 60s. But I'm worried about the future generation. What's going to happen if we start doing such things? Please, please, in the name of God, let's unite and let's mourn former Kateka Wesu Mumuchinshi. Tulabama differences yonse. Chataka mana chirayo sha. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Agnes. Thank you very much. Our dear mother, Agnes Seya, makes a contribution. Let's see if we can begin to take the last 3 calls and cancel. I've kept you for 2 hours. I would like to release you to your family, and it's late. Probably you have a busy schedule tomorrow. Let's just see if we can take the last 3 phone calls. Hey, Counsel, are you there? Oh, sorry, I think someone called on this line. Let me just reactivate. Just hold on. I put you on speaker. Hello, good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Hi, Ambassador. This is Olivia. Good evening, Counsel. Olivia Piri here.
Oh, Olivia Piri.
Good evening, thank you.
From,
yes, good evening.
Is it Olivia Piri from the Socialist Party?
Yes, please.
Yes, Mama, make your contributions.
Actually, mine is a quick one. Counsel, I think we need this type of education for our friends, I think, in the system. There seems to be a lot of ignorance from the top to the lower organ. And I think this education is needed because this is why we have the whole lot of vice president to go and threaten a member of parliament who are trying to get answers to the crisis that has been created. Yeah, so to me, I think I would want to call such, this is what we need on ZNBC and these other programs that should help all of us. And the crisis, I think, to me, that you cancel, the family must be respected. We are first family before we join politics, before we join any institution. So if the state cannot respect, I think I'm one of the citizens, and as a Christian, let the family bury there for the sake of peace, and then when peace stabilizes in the country, they can bring back that body. I think that's my contribution.
Thank you, Olivia Piri. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Hello, Mr. Emmanuel Mwamba. My name is Mono Kalowe. I'm calling you from Connecticut, USA.
Oh, Mono from Connecticut, USA. Make your contribution, my sister.
Okay, my contribution is this. What I've noticed with President Hakainde Hichilema is that, you see, even just from the time that President Edgar Lungu bounced back into politics, to me, it's as if he knows what to do, but he knows that when the body arrives, ECL is going to be celebrated in a huge way. So it's a way of preventing what they are calling political mileage. That's my thinking. It has nothing to do with it being a state funeral or anything. It's just that fear that he's always had, that ECL seems to be popular, or now it will be there for everyone to see how much it is going to be celebrated. But HH is the current president. Whether ECL is celebrated in a huge manner or whatever happens, right now all he needs is just to deliver on his campaign promises. That's all.
Thank you.
It doesn't matter whether he attends the funeral, he doesn't attend. Let us bury the former president, and then he'll continue delivering, and whatever he's going to deliver is what is going to determine whether PF will bounce back or not. So for me, I'm taking this as just him still being in that state that we know. Wherever he goes, ECL, wherever he goes, even in his death. That's all that I'm thinking. Even the preventing of people to go, and what can the mourners do when they go to the airport to receive the body? What did they do when Mwanawasa died? What did they do when President Sata died? Nothing. If anything, if there is chaos, that's why we have the army.
Yeah.
So that's my contribution. He should just let the Lord take its course. I don't know if I can say the Lord take its course, but
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you from Connecticut. Thank you very much. Counsel, what I'll do is I'll release you. I'll maybe take another set of phone calls in the next 20, 30 minutes because you've laid the foundation. I think you've expressed your thought. It's something we can answer. But Agnes says, look, this man is so preoccupied. It's like we are putting salt to injury to the bereaved family. And she calls for, unity for our country, especially that she's in her 60s and she says we should build our country. The young lady from from Connecticut here in the United States says President Hakainde Hichilema knows the political fortunes that Edgar Lungu carries, whether alive or death, and he showed a lot of insecurity with Edgar Lungu, and he has just continued to show that state of insecurity. Please answer those or contribute and make your final remarks.
But to start with, that other lady talked about she's in her 60s. I equally clocked to 60 last December.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So, when you reach the age that I've reached, time has a different meaning altogether. You begin to wonder how many more good years do you have left. Okay? So that is why it's so painful that we are preoccupied with issues like this. Okay? Which should have been easily resolved. And yet, this country has so many pressing issues which we are not focusing on. Okay, it's very sad. Now, it is good for us to remember that when we have a discussion like this, we should talk as Zambians. Let's take away all our political biases and everything else. Just talk as Zambians. And I think if we do that, we discover that we have actually more in common. There's a lot more that binds us than what divides us, So, but this is also, I hope, that from this experience, we will take steps to enact the relevant laws so that everything is clearly laid out. Because the problem is that when you are dealing with a situation that is not governed by law, there is always opportunism. The chance of opportunism and exploitation of the situation is always present. Okay? So it's very sad that we're having this kind of conversation 60 years after independence. Okay? It is not something that is good or something to be proud of. It's not. Okay? Now, there are other things. For example, there's a lot that we can talk about. But my plea is this. Let's allow common sense to prevail. Let us respect the wishes of the family. If the family say the president should not attend the funeral, then the president should respect the wishes of the family and stay away. There's this argument saying, is be hosting and so forth. No, this is a funeral for the family. It's not for the president. Okay, so at the end of the day, we should give priority to the wishes of the family. We are supposed to make the burden to the family lighter and not to complicate it. So that is what I do hope and pray that common sense will prevail. In the absence of the law, the only thing we can do is to try and negotiate and reach a position that will be a win-win for everybody. The family have expressed certain concerns. I don't want to go into other issues that people are talking about to do with the walkout and all these other things. They have expressed those concerns, and we all owe it to them to allay those concerns, so that because they're the ones feeling the pain, we are not. Okay, it's a loss, but the immediate people that are suffering is the family. So we have to do everything possible as a people and as a country to lighten their burden and not to complicate their lives in the process. Okay? And for the administration, I do hope and pray. I don't know whether Parliament is due in session. But if it's not, I would urge them to enact a law immediately. If the drafters are having problems, there is nothing wrong in simply uplifting the Tanzanian law and enacting it, and then modify it and pass it as a Zambian law to guide these situations. Okay, so that we have a mechanism that is laid out, that is clear and transparent for everybody to know what is supposed to be expected. You know, the access to benefits that are due to the state should not be seen as favors. You see, the declaration of a state of state funeral should not be seen as a favor. It should be seen as a right that is provided for by law. Now, the way it is, there is no law in place, so people think that, well, this is just a favor that is being extended to the family, which is rather very unfortunate. And it's very sad, 60 years after independence, we're still fighting, and having buried a couple of presidents in the past, we have learned nothing, you know? We have learned nothing. We're still having the same disputes, which is very, very bad. So my plea to the administration is that please pass a law so that we are all guided, so that everything is clear. It is not a matter of favor. It becomes something that is clearly set out and everybody knows what to expect when a person of a particular standing dies, what should happen.
Counsel, thank you very much. I wouldn't, add any more. You have provided counsel to the country. You've provided the status of these issues and the lack of the law, which now literally allows lawlessness to take place, where wishes for the deceased are ignored or totally thrown out of the window on the basis of what we call national interest, even when it is not national interest. I like what you are saying about the Tanzanian law. Like the Standoff, opposite Cabinet Office, next to Embassy Park, there's that Standoff. That is to remember those that died in the First and Second World War. There's no single body that lies there.
That's correct.
Yet we go to the Standoff where, those poppy flowers and remember them, honor them. And
exactly.
We lay flowers
Nobody's
there.
buried there.
No, not at all.
Nobody's buried there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
okay.
If we had the law like in Tanzania and there's this dispute, the state probably would have proceeded to honor President Lungu, lay a plaque and remember him there. And when the issues are resolved around his remains, then they can come and be placed there. The state will have done and discharged its duties.
Or he could be buried anywhere. I mean, if he wanted to be buried, he would have been buried on the copper belt if that is his wishes.
Yeah.
And you could simply keep a plaque, place there at Embassy Park. Very simple.
Yeah. No, Mr. Chagwa, I would like to thank you and thank you for the great opportunity. And I just would like to appreciate you. I just ambushed you just, 1 hour before the program, and you were gracious enough to allow to come to the program. I don't take that for granted. And I lift the words of the lady that called you from the United Kingdom, that if there is any Zambian that deserves their flowers now, it is you. Because we have a habit. Here we are honoring President Lungu in death. In fact, President Lungu will be shocked by the kind words he has received so far from President Hakainde Hichilema, because he has said, let's mourn him in dignity. He was our head of state. He has said such flattering words about President Edgar Lungu. Imagine if President Lungu heard those words when he was alive.
Those words mean nothing, Ambassador.
Yeah.
They don't mean anything. They will have meant a lot to Edgar Lungu, to President Lungu, if he was alive.
Yeah.
Okay? And that is why all these good things that we say, let's say them when people are still alive. Okay? They mean nothing when we start saying all these nice things when people are dead, because those words would have meant something to President Lungu. But it's not there.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So those words, even if they are made, they sound very hollow and insincere. Okay? But they would have had a different meaning if they were spoken when President Lungu was still alive.
Correct.
Perhaps we wouldn't even be going through this particular drama.
Yes. So I was adopting the words of the young lady from the United Kingdom, honoring you, Mr. Chagwa, and recognizing your contribution, that usually when at the moment of crisis, your voice has provided guidance, sometimes even to the detriment, of these attacks that your political people that become political about it threaten your life, try to disparage you, but you've stood resolute. And I don't know what keeps you strong, but you've stood resolute to say your mind and to say, the mind that should guide our country.
Ambassador, it's for the love of this country, but we keep trashing it, we keep abusing it, and so forth. And yet, this country has been good to us. But what do? We don't respect it, we trash it. And we think, we have a duty to protect this country. This country can only be protected and developed by Zambians, not any other person. Okay? So that is why sometimes when time allows, we have to say it. Irrespective of the consequences that may follow. We have to say what it is. Yes, we may not please everybody. There are people that may see sense in what we are sharing, and other people will be looking for bad things to say. You can't avoid that, But the point is that we need to protect this country. Nobody else will if we don't. But this is something, maybe this is a subject of another conversation altogether, which, although we are so engrossed in this particular issue, but the point is that this country, Ambassador, has huge problems, which we are not talking about. Okay? Yeah. Now, these are the real issues we should be paying attention to. I'm not saying that the president's funeral is inconsequential, but it is. But it should not have assumed the life it has assumed. We have more pressing challenges that this country faces. Which we're not talking about, but maybe you can invite me and then to another program we can discuss those issues.
Everyone has been writing while you are here that when is he coming back to discuss the Constitution? They want you for the Constitution and the Constitution-making process. So I'll engage you after the program. Let's see if we can find another evening. You lay your thoughts over this Constitution so-called process and the attempt to amend the Constitution.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Just let me know when you are ready. By the way, a lot of people are suggesting that maybe somebody has given me a diplomatic posting somewhere, and that's why I've been quiet. No, I'm 60.
No, you make a very good ambassador. You make a very good high commissioner and ambassador.
No, if there is an opening, I'd rather recommend you than... because you already understand the trappings of an ambassadorial position. But the point is this, I deliberately did not comment on the Constitution. The reason being that there was no draft. Okay, there was no bill. Now there is a bill. Now we can be able to analyze it. Because the process we went to was very unusual. You started with a ministerial statement. Instead of a bill. Traditionally, you have a bill, then you have a ministerial statement. Now, in this case, we turned everything upside down. Now that the intention of the administration is now clear and is evident from the bill, then we can now talk about it.
Wonderful. I think then after the morning period State Council, I'll engage you. We can, lay a date and we'll inform the audience. By the way, you are the huge audience today, and I'm looking at the numbers. Numbers are very good. The country was listening both in Zambia and abroad, and there were a lot of questions and comments. Thank you, Council. God bless you. We'll speak to you later. But for my audience,
thank you very much, Ambassador, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. For my audience, let's come and we are hosting State Council John Chagwa, and he's given his great insights into this matter. I think the underpinning and the golden thread through the entire discussion is that respect the family and respect the family wishes. And he put in context what a state funeral is, and he bemoaned that there is lack of the law. And that is why it remains as discretion. But he says, even when the conditions of the funeral, declaration of state funeral and other things are given, they are not given in vain. They are still, he has requested us to look at the Tanzanian law. It looks like it's a model law regarding how to put to rest presidents and former presidents. You and I can still take now questions. I've allowed Honorable Sangwa to take a rest after 2 hours, but I can quickly take some more questions from you, and then we see how we go. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Okay, I won't say my name, but I'm calling from the UK.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, I just want to commend you for the great job that you're doing.
Thank you.
The job that you're doing is not going unnoticed. We're noticing it and we're grateful. Secondly, my condolences.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand why the president is so much on seeing the body of the former head of state. We've seen it all, like every normal Zambian has seen how Ash was towards ECL. Why is it that he wants to be that good person when the person is already dead? When ECL can't see anything or hear anything that he's saying? On top of that, they are going ahead and disrespecting the family that is mourning. So I just want to understand, like, what's the whole point? Why can't he just let it go? Why can't he just allow people to mourn in peace? You know, I feel like he should keep the same energy that he had when the late was alive. And it's just disheartening, honestly, a situation whereby, I mean, I can imagine what Tasila feels. That's the father, okay? And it's disappointing that Ash also has kids. And I'm just imagining if he would want his kids being subjected to whatever he's subjecting towards ECL's family when he's late. Of course, nobody is mortal. He's going to die as well. How would he feel if the person who's going to succeed him starts treating his wife and his kids in that manner? So kindly, I don't know if it makes sense, but
Yes, it does, my dear sister. I will answer.
Disappointed.
Yes, yeah,
and
thank
I'm
you.
hurt. All right, thank you so much.
No, like many Zambians are disappointed and hurt, and thank you for that contribution. There are many people that wishes to make contributions. There are so many missed calls. I'm so sorry that we couldn't take all of the questions to State Counsel Sangwa, but most of the questions I think were representative of what you wanted to say. My line is open. Let's still see. Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Hi, my name is Limba. I'm calling you from Zambia.
Mr. Zimba from Zambia, make your contribution.
Limba, not Zimba.
Oh, Limba,
Zambia,
thank you.
Actually, Lusaka to be specific.
Limba from Lusaka, Zambia. Make your contributions.
Yes. Okay, mine is just, it's a bit away from what we're discussing. I'm looking at a law that that bars the presidents to get their benefits once they bounce back, they become active into politics. You know, they're like the former presidents. That law, if I think about it too well, I think it's a law that was introduced somewhere in the 1991, 90s, somewhere there.
The law was passed in 1993. It's called the Former President's Benefits Act. The amendment,
yes.
In fact, it's not even an amendment. I think it could be a statutory instrument or an amendment, came in 1998. Yes. This was now related to Dr. Kaunda because Dr. Kaunda was entitled to benefits. Then he joined active politics. So it's like they now crafted that law in 1998 that if you join politics, you know, you not then the benefits will be withdrawn. It's part of the agreement in which Dr. Kaunda was allowed to retire and access his benefits, and then that amendment was passed.
Yeah, so if you look at it properly, it was some sort of mingalato, you know, where you don't want your friend to come back, and then you put in that sanction. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Correct.
So, in my thinking, why? This is a new word now, you know. We've actually, it's another word. We've graduated from what it was then. Why can't we abolish this law? Because, look, even President Hakainde Hichilema, when he leaves power, he would want to support somebody from his party. And, once you remain in politics, you become relevant, you become a force to reckon with. So I think this law, somehow, it's not a fair law. And if you look at the whole situation of ECL, what has brought this thing up, all this confusion, is this same law. That's where it started from. They talked him until he came back active into politics.
Thank you, my brother.
Once he did that, then they said, you're not getting your benefits. Now look at where we are.
Thank you very much.
Certain laws, I don't know what you think, Ambassador. Is it beneficial for us to have to keep holding on to such a law? These are the same laws that we need to change instead of concentrating on the Bill 7.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Limban. Thank you. I will, yeah. Okay, let's take as many calls as possible to allow those that couldn't go through earlier. Hello, please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
I'll remain anonymous. Sorry,
Wonderful.
Ambassador Mwamba, that I'm calling again, but I just been reading a statement that has been released tonight by the government, indicating that the remains of our late president did not arrive as per agreed. What surprises me is the lack of acknowledgement, or at least highlighting, because it's not like the family did not travel and they didn't give any notice. They did not travel and they have addressed the nation. They have given the reasons as to why. And according to the lawyer, it's because, or family through the lawyer, is that there's been a change of on the agreement, right? Wouldn't it be right that the government also gets to acknowledge, or at least just say something? Just say something, because now it appears to say, yes, we acknowledge that it has not happened as we said, as it was announced, but we'll get back and they'll continue. So it feels like Bamakebi na Balanda, the family through Bamakebi, but then the government just comes and just confirms. But then they are not acknowledging whether of course, we heard that the president would be there, but then what came up which was surprising, was the address, the church service at the airport. That was not, we didn't hear that when they had this press conference, right? And then we also did not get to hear about other changes, about the RDA. They have not even been mentioned in this. So it would just be nice that this thing keeps on going back and forth. I think also at some point, maybe now this time around, I'm happy that they have indicated that the president will address. Maybe it should also come out very clear, so that by the end of the day, we want to trust the government that they are also saying the truth and that they want to confirm and that not be dented, because this is not just about Zambia. The world is watching us. The world is watching us. How do we want Zambia to be represented out there? They will not come and tell us, but then we must take care of our own country and we must take care of our own government, right? It's very important that we take care of that. So I just wanted to comment on that. I don't know.
Thank you, my dear sister. God bless you for those comments.
That has just come out.
Yeah, let me just check it.
Much acknowledgement, or just debunk what the lawyer said.
Yeah, okay.
So
let me look at it.
Saying the truth or not?
Yeah.
Mazina yangu Ninevo Betha Lungu. Ninevo nkashia kwa Edgar Chagwa Lungu. Chagwa Lungu emwaito wandi uko nka ine panuma. Nomba ndefu ayokulanda kuchalo cha Zambia uko ati mumfwe ifyondelanda munivele maningi vamene vunufunola vila. Nifuna kulabira kuti uyu mubiri wa Chagwa wamene utudoselana pali zino ntawi taoneka monga seolomba tawika mumanja ya mwine Mulungu niya kuti azive viti kuti tichite pali zino ntawi tifuna tinkhale pasi tikambilane monga banja tizive viti kuti tichite osati seo te banja tiwodoselana na boma tifuna kuti tinkhale pamozi tike maganizo pamozi lomba tikunga kumva kuti mailo statement yachinja lomba seo te babanja titolepo chinji so pola bila vonse hivyo. That's why amakebi Zulu niye bunupasa mpamvu neo ne sister wao kuti atilabirire ku ziko la Zambia viti kuti vikonkepo vitufuna kuti tichite nineo nubapa mpamvu amakebi ozitolera lini mpamvu mubeka bene
Fellow countrymen and women, brothers, sisters, and everyone who's listening in or indeed watching us. This is a statement for and on behalf of the Lungu family relating to the burial and funeral of the late President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. As the public may be aware, we had engaged government on the arrangements relating to the burial of the late 6th Republican President of the Republic of Zambia, President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. Following a joint briefing between family and government, we came to an agreed position that the mortal remains of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu would be repatriated today, the 18th of June, 2025. It was agreed, among other things, that the body would at all times lay in state at the official residence of the deceased in Chifwema. It was further agreed that parties would jointly make decisions upon consultation. However, the family has noted with regret that there have been attempts to subvert the spirit of the agreement that the family and the government got into by engagement into the following on the part of the government. On the 16th of June 2025, a statement to the public was released by Road Development Agency stating that they would be carrying out repair works of the road from Crossroads 7 kilometers onwards. As the public may know, this is a road that leads to Chifwema, the official residence of the former president. It is also part of the program and agreement that at all times the body would be moving from Chifwema to Mulungushi Conference Center for purposes of body viewing, the state funeral, as well as the burial service on the 23rd. However, the notice from RDA put it across that the road would be under maintenance. When this was brought to our attention, we advised the Secretary to the Cabinet that we weren't comfortable with these works as they tended to go against the agreement that we had. When this was brought to their attention, the said works were suspended until further notice. However, on the 17th of June 2025, the Secretary to the Cabinet issued a statement restricting people from receiving or at least witnessing the arrival of the remains of the former president. This notice was issued without consultation with the family, and further, no opportunity whatsoever was given to the family to indicate whom they wished to invite, if at all the attendance was by invitation, nor were they given any chance to say anything as regards the said invitation. When the Secretary to the Cabinet was engaged, he only stated that there were security concerns, which concerns still have not been stated to the family. Following that statement, the next thing was that there was a program for the arrival of the body at Kenneth Kaunda International Airport. This program suggested that upon arrival at Kenneth Kaunda International Airport, the body would be taken to a designated place for a church service, and thereafter it would be received by President Hakainde Hichilema at the airport. This position was not an agreed position with the family, and the program was made without consultation with the family. When this matter was made known to the Secretary to the Cabinet, he stated that the same was released in error and was a draft, and as such should not have been released. Before long, yet another statement, which they termed a combined program, was released, which essentially contained the same, but further went to suggest that on Thursday, the 19th of June 2025, President Hakainde Hichilema would lead the body viewing at Mulungushi International Conference Center. This program as well was arrived at without consultation with the family. For this reason and many more, the family finds it very difficult to believe that the government will stick to their end of the agreement and have resolved, sadly so, that the mortal remains of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu will not return home today. It is our hope that someday his remains will be repatriated back home and buried.
Thank you. I've got a caller here, and caller, thank you for waiting. Kindly tell us your name and where you are calling from. Yeah, please tell us your name.
This is Dak. I'm calling you from Lusaka, Bamamba.
Mr. Daka, make your contributions.
Yes. Basangwa usually, even when PF was there, when he comes on radio, usually brings a lot of lecture. Me, I call them lecture because it's like he's teaching the whole country. He's lecturing the whole country on law. And most of us have benefited a lot. Now, coupled with what Mr. Sangwa alluded to, between the standoff between the family and government, there was also a purported secular. I think it was from government, which that secular read that all activities, or when the former president comes into their designated areas, they are not supposed to accord him all the accolades he is supposed to be according. That secular also brought in a lot of issues with the family. And just like Mr. Sangwa had said, I think the family are feeling it more than we are feeling it. And I think the first person on the firing squad to be fired again is all coming down to Makebizuru. Because people now think Makebizuru is speaking on his own, and they have insults on Makebizuru, ridicule on Makebizuru, who is just doing his job, he's just representing his clan. So that was my contribution.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. And I noticed that you've been calling for some times. I'm so sorry. The lines was just jammed.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, Ambassador Mombanti. Good evening, Council.
Thank you very much.
I choose not to be. I choose to be unknown. My question is very short. I just want to find out from the legal mind, do we think coming up with a law concerning this state funerals can help further confusions in the future, such as this one, which we have? Because if we look at history, we have seen the way the funeral for the late President Manawasa was handled. There was a family wish, and even for the late first Republican President Kaunda, there was also that issue, though it did not prolong like we have seen it in this case of our late President ECL. Do we think coming up with a piece of law can help sort out the issue? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We need to go. We are glad that State Counsel John Sangwa came and graced the program, and he gave very wonderful insights. Very wonderful insights. And hello, please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. We are winding up the program.
Yes, this is Fanny Zimba.
Fanny Zimba, good evening, Murishan Mayo.
kuno tuli ni mukasuba. Good evening to the people in Zambia.
Endita bushepali aba misanshilo obunga nga pali abale umfa bali mupepi na wafani zimba munsa mfisheko obunga abo elo muntu minama pictures. I'll put it on my page. Make your contributions, my sister.
I know the program is just winding up. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much, Kuliwa Basangwa. We have been schooled batusambirira fintu ifikankala sana, and every well-meaning Zambian who's listening to this program this time around, I'm sure anatusambirira pochimo, whether we can admit it here publicly or not. If tufira okusambirira natusambirira. The other thing that I would like to talk about, one lesson that this entire funeral yaba later president by ECL wonse twalibatemenwe. One thing I have learned from this is that let us learn to reconcile with the people whom we have differences with, like right now. The Bible is very clear. Before let us forgive one another. Between you and me, let us forgive one another. I think the Bible is very clear. Let us look at the previous presidents. When we look at how it has been, most, if not all, of those presidents had reconciled. By the time Bale Samukufanishina Bachita reconcile. So because the family is finding it very heavy in their hearts, there was no reconciliation between the late President ECL and the current President HH. And at this point, I'm not speaking as politics aside. We are human beings. If somebody like me has lost a loved one before, especially here where we have a clear guideline on the last wishes of the late President ECL. The best thing we can do is respect the family, go about it the way they wish it. Let us leave them to mourn the way they want to mourn, because if we as Zambians, no matter how much we loved ECL, trust me, the loss that the family is feeling is much, much more than what we are feeling here. So as well-meaning Zambians, I would also like to, I don't know for our government or if my word even matters, family, because that's the only way this thing is going to be put to rest. If I were by ECL's child, trust me, South Africa. But we want to also give chance to those Zambians. If you are going to your airport, your selected people to go there, Zambians have celebrated and mourned together as a country in the last, when we had celebrations, when we had funerals. Airport, those who can, line up entire Great East Road, to line up in crying or in celebration. Why this time around? I would like to urge all of us as well, meaning Zambians, those in government, those in opposition, let us give the respect to the family. Thank you very much, Mamwamba, and this has been a very, very good program.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So as we close, let me just read a statement that has come out this evening while I was on the program. We had the same issue yesterday where I read the program that was released and was shared by notables, and I took it that it was an unofficial program, but it is on the Ministry of Information and Media. So this is what it reads. So it must be authentic because it's on Tabokawana's Ministry of Information and Media. The government wishes to inform the nation that the remains of the late 6th President of the Republic of Zambia, Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, were not repatriated to Zambia today. We acknowledge that this is contrary to the previous announcement that the remains would be received in Zambia today on Wednesday, 18th June 2025. This is not the outcome we sought. We acknowledge the disappointment this may bring and share in that sentiment. Throughout this trying time, you, the Zambian people, have exemplified the core values that define us in our motto, One Zambia, One Nation. Over the past 2 weeks, the government of the Republic of Zambia, because it has been 14 days, has been fully engaged with the bereaved family of our late sixth president, Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, to secure the dignified repatriation of his mortal remains from South Africa and the conduct of a state funeral here at home. Government has also made efforts to engage the government of the Republic of South Africa to assist with the repatriation of the remains of the late former president through diplomatic efforts, which resulted in the arrangements of the military honors to be accorded at the send-off ceremony of the late former president of the Republic of Zambia. Despite the challenges encountered along the way, the discussions yielded significant progress. On Saturday, 14th June 2025, government and the family reached a common understanding, after which a joint press briefing was held in Pretoria on Sunday, June 15th, 2015. A detailed program was then publicly announced by the family, outlining the arrival of the body in Lusaka on Wednesday, 18th June, and the burial on Monday, 23rd June, 2025. In this same joint address, it was announced that the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, would superintend over the state funeral as head of state. The government and the people of Zambia are, as per our laws and our traditions on matters relating to the handling of affairs of deceased former head of state, still prepared to accord our Republican president with full military honors due to him as a former head of state of this country. The state funeral was to honor his service to the nation and to accord the people of Zambia an opportunity to bid him farewell in a dignified funeral. Nevertheless, government remains open and indeed is committed to re-engage until an amicable resolution is achieved. In this spirit, we are grateful for the continued mediation by senior church leaders who are faithfully serving as neutral facilitators between government and the family. Their counsel and prayers are most welcome at this delicate hour. The government wishes to appeal to each one of us to remain calm, united and prayerful. Let us avoid speculations, divisive rhetoric, or actions that may inflame emotions. Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu served as the nation at the highest level as head of state. He deserves a final resting place marked by dignity, decorum, and national solidarity. At an appropriate moment, the president will address the nation and provide further guidance. Until then, the government will continue in its consultation with the family, mindful of the need to accord our late former president the honor commensurate with his office and service. May the Almighty God guide our deliberations, comfort the bereaved family, and bless the Republic of Zambia as we navigate through this trying period. I thank you and God bless you. Patrick Kangwa, Secretary to Cabinet, released to the media 18th June 2025. Well, the summary of it is that government is determined to still engage the family. This is good news, and I hope that they will immediately begin the engagement. My brother, it's like you have something to say. Kindly say it before we close. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, make your contributions quickly.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, State Counsel.
A State Counsel is no longer with us. We've just excused him, but quickly make your contributions.
Okay, thank you so much. So, my contribution is, first of all, to thank you for bringing such a program and the host that you had. However, I equally do have a concern on how issues were being discussed. My first concern is, I'll give an example. We invite different heads of states from different countries there in Zambia to attend the funeral for our late president. At that point, when they are in Zambia, they are under the security of the Zambian government, right? So if, let's say, anything was to happen, who would be blamed? Is it the family or it's the Zambian government?
You could have joined. You could have joined the program very late. I highlighted that particular matter. That, for example, the president in their program, in their joint agreement, they agreed that the president will host the heads of state on that designated church program on Sunday, which was designed for VVIPs and dignitaries from Zambia and the region. That will be hosted by the president, and both families agreed. The family and the state agreed.
Great. That is still understood. Suppose after that joint venture, right, that meeting between the president and the head of states, whichever route they decide to take, whichever visits they intend to make. For me, I think it's still okay for the president to be part and parcel of that or those particular meetings, because they are here in Zambia and they ought to be led by the leader of a certain country. And well, we could argue that maybe a designated person, but not to be political. I'm trying my own is not to be political. Come to think of it, head of states are being led by a common human being.
I can guide there. I had 2 incidents where I brought 2 heads of states here. Jacob Zuma came, in a bilateral trip. He saw the president. Then we went to see Dr. Kaunda, and there was only what we call a minister of honor to accompany him. If you see the picture, we are with President Jacob Zuma, with Dr. Kenneth David Kaunda. Similarly, with President Cyril Ramaphosa, same thing happened. So there'll be activities like when the visitors, dignitaries, the presidents go to Embassy Park, the president doesn't accompany them there. There's what we call a minister of honor who will be with them the entire time. Is that clear?
Okay, clear.
Thank you. Okay. My brother, I think your question, we want to Akwalesa, I know Zambians want to communicate. Ichipelankula nacho chilatusha nangundi chigayo. I went live at 03 this time, and I quickly came up, slept just for an hour or 2, and came to host this program because I thought that the views of John Sangwa, State Counsel, would be valuable to the nation at this critical hour. And I'm glad that the state have released a statement this evening, still proposing to engage in discussion with the family and help resolve the standoff. There's even an indication that the head of state may come to address the nation on these arising matters. So the door is not closed. We serve a God. We serve a God that is almighty in nature. It's not the end until the Lord says it is the end. Let's remain hopeful. God bless our country. God bless you, and thank you for listening. We will have another update tomorrow morning. God bless you.